Ghana is experiencing severe inflation, and the continued depreciation of the currency is impacting the real estate sector. African policymakers in Tunisia say more technical and vocational training will make it easier for the Tunisian youths to land more jobs. Somalia hopes that the efforts they are putting in will help reduce the number of polio and measles cases in their country.
Well, hello and good afternoon to all tuning into Golfe TV Africa. Welcome to the 1 p.m. English News edition. I'm Metohuey ADOGLO with my partner
Hazel. OGOIGBE. Very beautiful afternoon to you, our dear viewers. Very beautiful afternoon to you, Metohuey ADOGLO.
Thank you very much. And so we kick off the edition with stories coming from the local territory. Let's say the leader of the opposition and current National Executive Secretary of the FCBE party had a meeting with its members on November 16th. Paul Hunkwe wants to motivate his people after their participation in the upcoming 2023 parliamentary elections has been confirmed by the National Electoral Commission. He emphasized on the need to ensure peaceful elections in the country and the importance to rely firmly on the youth to avoid what he calls the tax trap clearance. He speaks in the following extract.
Plusieurs ont chanté que FCBE n'irait pas aux élections.
Many people strongly believe that the FCBE party will not participate in the upcoming parliamentary elections. In fact, they were so sure that our files will be incomplete and will be rejected. But you know what? They were all wrong. Because in a few minutes, precisely by 11 a.m., I'm heading to the National Electoral Commission to withdraw the document we've been yearning for.
Eh bien, le César. Je voudrais vraiment me féliciter pour ça, surtout d'être bien entouré et de pouvoir compter sur une équipe déterminée.
I'm pleased with this outcome and I salute the efforts of every single one of you, especially my team, those who have been working with me since the beginning. Let's not forget that we are the main opposition party. A foreign press group have been spreading fake news concerning another opposition party being the main one. The only thing I have to say is that it's not from France that they will dictate whether we are from the opposition or not. Our people is the only one who has that right.
C'est notre peuple qui désigne. Nous sommes chefs de file de l'opposition. FCBE est chef de file de l'opposition.
We are the FCBE party and we are the opposition leader. Unfortunately, most of our fellow comrades from the opposition have mostly been talking without concrete actions. Meanwhile, we do the exact opposite.
Eux, ils parlent beaucoup. Nous, on parle peu, mais on travaille. Le moment de moissonner est arrivé, eh bien, on leur dit, chantez, passez. Nous, on travaille et on va récolter. Nous avons accordé une place spéciale aux jeunes. Plus de 50%. Oui. Pour être réaliste.
We firmly rely on the youths. Our ranks comprise 50% of them. And let's be frank, it is the only way to avoid the trap of tax clearance. We need to put an end to the old mindset, which states that only the old and experienced people can be part of our team. Those people have been in the system for years, and it is time for them to step down and let the youth rule as well.
Toujours manger. Si c'est eux qu'il faut toujours positionner, nous n'allons pas nous en sortir. Et nous comptons beaucoup également sur les femmes.
Beside them, we are also counting on the women of our party for a peaceful election because women have a maternal instinct. I'm a bit disappointed because all the opposition parties did not meet the criteria to attend the elections, because it is essential that we know precisely which one among us have the support of our people.
La valeur, ce que nous représentons, ceux qui véritablement sont portés par le peuple, soient connus.
Still on the local scene, a revised helmet law has been enacted in Benin Republic. This law states that motorists and passengers must wear their helmet. The punishment for failure to wear a helmet is a fine of 6,000 cedis. It had been announced to start on Tuesday, the 15th of November, but according to observations made on the field, it has not yet been fully enacted. More information in the following report. It is now mandatory for motorists and the passengers to wear a helmet in Benin Republic. This law is not a new law, and it has been in existence since 1972 and was recently reviewed by the Prefecture of the Littoral Department. This law was announced to be enacted starting from the 15th of November 2022. Now, observations were made in Cotonou and its environs, and it was observed that the decision was not respected by road users or motorcyclists, and they were not reprimanded yet. Thanks to God, they said they would commence the enforcement of the law on the 15th of November, but the reality on ground is that the passengers on the motorcycle are not adhering to the decision made by the government. This means they are not wearing their helmets, rather just a few passengers are wearing their helmets. I am asking the government to review their decision.
Je demande au gouvernement de revoir leur copie. Ils ont étudié, je sais que le gouvernement qui est de talent.
They have studied the terrain. Thailand's government is equipped with intelligent officials. They are not foolish. Maybe they studied the environment and they would employ other strategies to improve the enforcement of the law. I cannot say there was a communication gap on the part of the government in Benin Republic to its citizens. I saw some passengers that have purchased their helmets, although some have not purchased because they do not have the means to buy it. If not, I can't say there's a breach in communication. The government took the necessary dispositions to announce it in almost all the televisions and radio stations. The announcement was made, and people are also complaining everywhere that things are not easy.
Je crois que les gens ont su qu'il y a quelque chose comme ça.
The decision is not praiseworthy. This is according to a motorcyclist. He says the decision is risky.
Monsieur, sans vous mentir, cette décision n'est pas du tout salutaire.
Without mincing words, this decision is not praiseworthy. For instance, motorcyclists that pick passengers that do not have their personal motorcycles, the motorcycle drivers would give a helmet to a passenger. Imagine the number of passengers commercial motorcyclists carry every day, and they would all be sharing one helmet. This act would make passengers susceptible to a lot of sicknesses and disease that could spread by the usage of a single helmet by all the passengers. The government needs to reevaluate the decision. Times are hard, there is no money in the country. Everyone is complaining. That is why I am not in agreement with the decision.
C'est pour ça que vraiment, moi je suis pas d'accord avec ça.
The citizens of Benin had various perspectives on the decision. According to Nolo, he was of the opinion that the decision is important and necessary to reduce the amount of road accidents on the road. He encouraged road users to reconsider their take on the decision.
Moi personnellement, j'envoie un message.
Personally, I am sending a message to the populace. I recommend they apply the decision because it is a very good decision, and the decision is aimed at saving our lives, especially when the festivity periods is drawing closer. Last weekend I went to Ouida and the road was terrible. I visited a hospital. Sadly, the amount of accidents that happen on the road is increasing every single day. I sincerely recommend that we need to respect the decision because it is for our own good and it is geared towards saving our lives. We are close to Christmas period. With everything happening on the road, it is normal. I salute the decision made by the government of Benin, and that I beseech each and every one of us to respect the decision.
Donc, il est normal que, et je salue cette décision de l'État, d'accord? Donc, il est normal que.
According to the government of Benin Republic, it is thereby mandatory for passengers to wear a helmet, and if a passenger is guilty of flaunting the law, he will be arrested and will be made to pay a fine of 6,000 cedis.
The election campaign is in full swing in Equatorial Guinea. Voters are going to the polls this Sunday, November 20th, to elect a new president of the republic. The candidate for the ruling party, Theodore Obiang will be running for a sixth term as head of state. He will face Bonaventure Mansour, candidate of the Social Democratic Coalition Party, Esono Ondo Idris, president of the opposition, Convergence of the Social Democracy.
On the opening day of Equatorial Guinea's electoral campaign season, the United States government called on the government of Equatorial Guinea to honor its international commitment and constitutional principles by supporting a free and fair vote. The United States has been concerned by reports of arrest and harassment of opposition members in civil society and urged the government to allow citizens to freely and confidently express their preferences at the ballot box. Political-related gatherings are likely ahead of the presidential, Chamber of Deputies, Senate and municipal elections in Equatorial Guinea, scheduled for the 20th of November 2022. The electoral campaign will officially run from the 3rd to the 18th of November. Likely gathering locations include Malabo on Bioko Island and Bata on the mainland. A heightened security presence is likely in the vicinity of all election-related events and near polling stations on election day. Opposition political gatherings are likely to be affected by clashes with security forces. Disruptions to transport, businesses and other services are possible on and around the polling day. Officials could lose land borders and restrict air travels on the 20th of November. Authorities had announced on the 20th of September the elections will be brought forward to the 20th of November. The decree cited financial reasons due to the negative global economic context, which includes the war in Ukraine, fallout of the COVID-19 crisis, and related savings by combining all elections. The ruling PDGE party is highly likely to remain in power and obtain a vast majority of deputies and senators. It remains to be seen whether incumbent President Theodore Obiang Nguema will attempt to run for another term or let his son Theodore Nguema Obiang Mangwe, the current vice president, succeed him. Basogo rose to power in a 1979 coup and has now been ruling the country called Equatorial Guinea for 43 years. He was elected in 1982 and 1989, running as the sole candidate for 7-year term before multi-party rule was introduced in the country. Despite this, he was re-elected in 1996, 2002, 2009 and 2016, with more than 90% of the votes each time. The elections were condemned as fraudulent by the opposition and international observers. Monitor local political developments, gives advice and says that it is necessary to avoid all political gatherings, obey all the instructions issued by the local authorities, and if violence erupts, immediately depart the affected area. It is also important for citizens to reconfirm transport arrangements immediately before and during the election. The election campaign is in full swing in Equatorial Guinea. Voters are going to the polls on Sunday, the 20th of November, to elect a new president of the republic. Candidate of the ruling party, Theodore Obiang Nguema, will be running for a 6th term as the head of office. He will face Bonaventure Mansour, the candidate of the Social Democratic Coalition Party, and Esono Ondo Idris, president of the opposition Convergence for Social Democracy. On the ground, the two opposition parties are not very visible. The campaign is dominated by the meetings and posters of the outgoing president, who has teamed up with 14 opposition parties for these elections. These are combined elections where deputies, senators, and mayors would also be elected. The opposition believes that the time for change has arrived. Presidential election was brought forward by 5 months. The government had justified the anticipation of the election in Equatorial Guinea by the concerns to reduce the cost of organizations in a context of economic crisis. So that
away from that, crossing over to Somalia, Metohuey, you have this?
We do apologize for that little bit of technical difficulties on that particular story. The country hopes efforts to help reduce the number of polio and measles cases, according to UNICEF, at 15,000 cases of measles have already been recorded in Somalia this year.
This is the first vaccination dose for Amir Mohammed's 4 children in Somali capital Mogadishu. The jabs will protect them from killer diseases such as measles and polio, which are very common in the country due to low vaccination.
All my 4 children received the vaccination doses. I'm doing this as a prevention measure following reports of measles cases. That is why I brought them here to this clinic.
With the help from World Health Organization and UN Children Agency UNICEF, more than 3 million Somali children are expected to receive the life-saving vaccines in the coming weeks. However, that needs an awareness campaign from the Somali health officials.
Their children and make sure those under the age of 5 years are fully vaccinated to save their lives by reducing risks and protecting them from diseases such as polio.
Thousands of vaccinators will go house to house to ensure routine immunization of children. UNICEF says more than 15,000 cases of measles was detected in Somalia this year alone. That is why regular campaigns like this one is very important to prevent more cases among the children.
So far we have vaccinated 1.3 million children, and now this campaign is going to target all the children under 5, around 2.8 million children. And in terms of the role of UNICEF worked very closely with the government at both federal and the states level, and so far UNICEF has provided more than 5 million measles and polio doses of vaccine, and also UNICEF provided more than 3 million doses of vitamin A and deworming tablets.
Stakeholders believe recurrent conditions such as drought and looming famine, which result displacement, are partially contributing to low vaccination rate.
Crossing over to Tunisia, African policymakers in Tunisia say more technical and vocational training will make it easier for Tunisian youth to land more jobs. Now, young people aged between 15 and 24 represent 20% of the African population.
Vocational training is providing millions of job opportunities for African youths. Zayed Hamidrou is a 22-year-old vocational trainee in fashion design. He studied archaeology at university before changing course and taken up fashion design for his professional career.
I used to study archaeology in a faculty of human sciences. It was such a great experience, but I couldn't go further because that's where I do belong. I felt like fashion design is my issue. So I went directly to this field, and I kind of loved it and I enjoyed it. And here I am today focusing on achieving that dream and making it coming true.
Qusay Arif is a technical trainee in the mechanical engineering and the automotive industry. He is optimistic about his professional career in the near future, as many companies are hiring technicians in North Africa and Europe.
I can find a job easily in the first week after graduation from technical training. I can even travel to other countries and work in this promising sector. It's better than staying unemployed for years.
Tunisia has been hosting an African Union-backed conference that's focusing on the growth of innovations and vocational training in the continent. Experts at the African Union Development Agency, a new partnership for Africa's development, which is an economic development program for the African Union, say that the Skills Initiative for Africa is an ambitious project which aims to train millions of African youths in the most in-demand fields.
There's a lot of young people that are on the streets that have skills, but they're not able to get the jobs. And we're saying with better qualifications, with better competencies, vocational capabilities, we stand to improve the chances of young people accessing a job, accessing an income, so that they can also thrive.
Dozens of vocational training institutions in Cameroon, Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Togo and Tunisia have been equipped with the latest technology to provide employment-oriented skills development. According to the African Union Development Agency, thanks to the Skills for Africa initiative, access to employment-oriented skills development for young people is improving, in particular for women, students, migrants and refugees.
Ghana is experiencing severe inflation, and the continual depreciation of the country's currency against the US dollar is beginning to impact the real estate sector. Experts warn that the real estate developers will soon begin increasing the prices of their properties to cover the increasing expense of importing building materials.
Gideon Kwafo has been building homes in Accra for almost 10 years. He says the hike in the cost of construction materials this year has taken its toll on his business.
Most clients are
deciding to hold on to their project until some of the prices are stabilized, and of which we are not too certain how long it's going to take. But with regards to some of them, they are anticipating somewhere next year.
Ghana's economy is reeling under high inflation at 40%. The cost of a 50-kilogram bag of cement has jumped from $3 last year to nearly $7 this year. A ton of iron rods was sold at $400 last year. It now costs more than $600.
Suppliers of construction materials say the cost of iron rods is likely to shoot up even higher if Ghana's currency, the cedi, weakens further against the US dollar. And that could mean slow trade at this market, which has already suffered due to rising prices.
Real estate developers say they can't keep up with the hike in the cost of materials, so they've been forced to lay off staff.
Most of the workers are now home. They'll be calling you day in, day out. Boss, engineer, is there no work for us to do? And they also have families to feed. But then this thing is really affecting us a lot.
Developers say the cost of homes in Ghana are going to be more expensive and unaffordable to many people if they continue to build. Many are turning to loans from banks, which come at higher interest rates, to fund development projects. Experts believe the cost of building can be reduced if materials are produced locally.
The time has come for us to look within homegrown policies. Let's try to see what we can use to turn around the little materials we have in here to provide the needs of our people. Now, we have a lot of concretes here. We have a lot of limestones here.
Gideon Kwafo agrees, but he says it could take many years for Ghana to boost its manufacturing industry. So until then, he hopes the government could subsidize the import of building materials for the real estate business to thrive. Now,
Welcome to the African Newspaper Review. We'll be touching on all the stories across the African continent, touching necessarily on their newspaper. So now, the Newspaper Review on Golfe TV Africa. The Newspaper Review on Golfe TV Africa. Now let's get started. As usual, we start off with papers coming in from Nigeria. Now let's tell you, we pick out The Punch. The Punch is one of our most interesting papers, touching on stories coming in from Nigeria. As we tell you, the Nation Nigeria first. The front page of the Nation Nigeria reveals Tinubu are not taking office on religious grounds. This is what he's come out to say. APC candidate meets CAN, Christian bodies. We have that on page 2 as well. Also, we're talking about the World Bank. OK's 13.5 million financing plan for Nigeria. We have that on page 8. And also, Buhari approves 134.7 billion for military veterans. Now, this is quite important. The military veterans need this aid because as soon as they leave office, as soon as they leave their service, some of them are even handicapped due to effects they had in combat and action as well. So we have all those interesting papers on all those interesting stories on the Nation Nigeria. Looking at the bottom half of the paper, it also says, looking at that, Rivers won't vote for president along party lines, says Wike. We have that on page 8, just right there. Also, federal government insists on no work, no pay for ASU members. Now, the federal government and ASU have been at loggerheads for quite a while, and ASU recently called off the strike, or rather suspended the strike to put in precise terms. And after that happened, the federal government paid them half pay, and they are like, okay, we even came back to work, and still you cannot pay us completely. You're giving us half pay. And the government is going to say they insist no work, no pay for us members. Now, this is tragic. Let's see as the story continues. We'll bring more to you as this story properly develops. Moving on from the Punch Nigeria, we head to the next paper of the day as we to touch on Still on the Punch, more stories on the Punch. As looking at the second page of the Punch, it says federal government deploys soldiers, DSS, in INEC offices nationwide. We have it on page 2. Also still on the Punch. Still on the Punch. Let's look at security team to be drawn from Army, Police, NTADC, Fire Service. Now, governor says using Turk state security outfits to cause violence. IG cries out. U.S. threatens to sanction candidates, politicians sponsoring violent campaigns. The United States is also looking at the Nigerian election because they are stakeholders in a lot of corporates in the federal government in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Also, OB supporters. Let's take a look at OB supporters. The OB is the candidates for the youths. The youths are a lot of the youths are behind OB, so that's what's happened there. So OB supporters protest. OB supporters protest on their registration buying plots. We have that on page 2 of the Punch Nigeria. Also, 1 billion addition to defense budget uncovered, ministers queried. We have it on page 4. Agbada Ataga was forced to sign prepared police statement, says Chidema. Chidema, you should remember, Chidema has been accused of killing the CEO of Super Screen Television. That was a whole controversy that has spanned throughout the year. And now she did initially say she was responsible for that, for the mother of the CEO. But now she's come out and say she is not guilty. We have that on page 4 and 5 of the Punch. So let's find out why she's changed her mind. Now she's come out to say she was forced to release a statement. She has come out to say. Now also looted funds. EFCC puts more governments on the watch. We have that on page 1 and 5. But that's all we have for you on the Punch Nigeria. Move on to all the papers. We can also check out what the Punch is saying right now immediately online. Let's go online. Still, we're in West Africa. Of course, this is West Africa. Moving throughout the region. We'll be touching on papers throughout the West African region. Still on the Punch, we're going to see some of the top stories on the Punch Nigeria. Now, it says 4 die in Ogun Road accident. That's just 12 minutes. This has just been in the duration of 12 minutes. In 12 minutes time, this has happened in the Punch Nigeria. So, yeah. More road accidents die in Ogun State. 4 have died in Ogun State. Very sad story there. But Nigeria is a place where we're having a lot of problems on the transit sector, a lot of accidents, especially during this December period. We don't know how and why this happens, but it's a phenomenon that happens a lot in Nigeria. Also, still on the front page or for the website of the Punch, it says drugs abuse in Canal, government to sensitize students. Also, aggrieved government still in PDP campaign council. We have that right there. Also, gunmen invade Anambra. Gunmen invade Anambra. Very touching story there. We have that there. We can see a couple of pictures on that as well. Moving on from that. Still on the Punch Nigeria, gunmen invade Anambra. Invade Anambra Catholic Church. The security guards have revealed. We have that. And that was just 57 minutes ago. Just 57 minutes ago replaced. Also, Obi Nkwankwan saw dangers for PDP. He has revealed. We had that. That was just 1 hour ago on the Punch Nigeria. Now, moving on from the Punch Nigeria, see if we have other interesting stories on the Punch Nigeria. Also, yeah, let's move on from that. I think we're good with that. We move on now to stories coming in from other stories coming in from the Daily Guide Ghana. Let's head to Ghana real quick. Brothers in arm. Now, the front page of Ghana says, the Daily Guide Ghana says, Aforiata resigns. It's a question. Cabinet reshuffle looms. Chickavede, pregnancy woman, now found want more. We have that on page 6. Also, voice on leaked on tape. Mine, Ofosu Akufo. We have that on page 4 of the Daily Guide Ghana. Now, Kent's conflict for interest and charge shut down. We have that on page 6 as well. Now, also, increase in cover price. We have more for you. This is all we have for you on the Daily Guide Ghana. Moving on from the Daily Guide Ghana, we had some more interesting papers as we touched on. Let's take a look at sports, for example, for just real quick. Sports is my most interesting topic. Of course, this is the World Cup season. The World Cup is going to be debuting in how many days? In just 4 days. Now, let's let that boot a little bit longer. Let's take a look at Twitter and see some of the trending stories on Twitter. Now, this is in relation to the Qatar World Cup. Everybody is, like all football, a lot of football fanatics are already on their way to Qatar. We have Sadio Mane, who he's not currently fit, but still is going to be debuting at the World Cup. Senegal hopes that in time, if they do reach the quarterfinals or the semifinals, Sadio Mane will be fit to play on that one. Macky Sall has sent out a tweet. on the World Cup, current World Cup that is going to be debuting in Qatar in only a couple of days. We're all ready. They're all set. Everybody's excited for this World Cup. And still no African country has ever won that competition. So it is a question is when will Africa be ready to win the World Cup? And people believe Senegal might just be the answer. Macky Sall sending out the tweets showing how involved he is with the great showpiece that is the World Cup. You see the French have arrived in Qatar and they are excited. They believe they can defend their title. Can they really do? We'll find out more as the day proceeds. Also, the manager of Senegal has come out, sent out a tweet as well, has got 27 reviews. So this is all the trending stories we have on the World Cup. Now, also, you have to understand there has been a fact that no one can dispute about the World Cup. And let's take a look at the screen. Let's look at the screen just right now. I want to talk a little bit about the Qatari system, the Qatari system. Now, in Qatar, for a very long time, the World Cup has debuted for Qatar, and it has caused so much controversy. And now it's been said that how migrant workers, have been used to build the World Cup. Now, the World Cup is the most expensive World Cup in the history, in the history of World Cups, spending over $200 billion to accomplish this. Now, first off, what has been said about the migrants worker in Qatar? This is a proper illustrative piece to show you how workers are suffering in Qatar. We can look right there in the middle of that. You see all the workers? They are showing you this picture literally illustrates that migrant workers have died for the accomplishment of this World Cup. So if this World Cup is achieved, it is because a lot of migrant workers have died in the kafara system. Now you can see World Cup is being played. World Cup is being played at the expense of the lives of the migrants. Now, this is what this particular picture illustrates right there. They have gotten the World Cup, but what's at the price of the migrant workers? Very sad story there. Moving on from that, I'm still looking at some of the trending stories coming in from the World Cup. Well, the Cameroonians are there and they are ready. Moving on from that, also more stories coming up about the World Cup, and we'll bring more to you as this particular stories develop. Now let's go on to and check out our sports stories for today. Sports paper is still loading. Very disappointing. I thought it would be ready by now. Let's check. All right, ready. Now, road to Qatar. 2 days to go. The World Cup will be debuting on Sunday. Masterpiece. We cannot wait for that. It's exciting. Also, looking at Depay. Depay opens to Chelsea move. Will that happen? Will that not happen? We had on page 4. Also, Red's Eye Mount. He's having a little bit of problem with Chelsea, negotiating a new contract with Chelsea. We can find out more about that and see how this particular story unfolds. Also, Bankole Awoloko, exclusive. This is an interview exclusive for him. Now, under 17 Women's World Cup dream, my dream. I was looking at that. Liverpool to settle and sell a deal for Benlami, a deal, and Kante to leave Chelsea for free. Everybody knows who N'Golo Kante is. N'Golo Kante is one of the most popular footballers on the planet for a lot of different reasons. They call N'Golo Kante is everywhere. He's at attack, he's at defense, he's in the middle. N'Golo Kante is everywhere. Sometimes they possibly believe there are 2 N'Golo Kantes on the field. But Kante has been on field for quite a while, and he's been asking for a new contract for Chelsea. But Chelsea are very unwilling to give him the contract he deserves. He wants 2 years, but Chelsea wants to give him 1 year because taking into account the amount of injuries he's had and his current age right now. So moving on from that, we move on from the sports stories and head on to more interesting stories, rather political-minded stories. As we touch on the New Vision Uganda. The New Vision Uganda reveals. Let's open that and see what we have for you. The New Vision Uganda reveals traders celebrate presidential detective. Let's find out. That's what we have here on page 4 of the New Vision Uganda. Museveni orders market leaders to vacate office. Why? You can get that on page 7 of the New Vision Uganda. Find out more about that. Also, still on the New Vision Uganda. We can look at that. Also, reproduction, sperm count declining at high rates, says a report. Right there. This is some interesting story there because, Africa is expanding at a rapid pace. The population of Africa is expanding crazy. And even recently in Tanzania, they grew by over 30%. And so when this report comes out to say reproduction, sperm count declining at a higher rate, this report, I think it's something you want to find out more about. How is this contradictory towards what we see in Nigeria, where there's a population boom? Or maybe it's just as a result of a particular region and that particular
in a particular region. Moving on from that, we're done with the New Vision Uganda. We head on to more papers. Another paper. We'll be touching on the Star from Kenya in a bit. The front page of the Star from Kenya. Front page of the Star from Kenya reveals investigative Keroche Harris allegedly fell down the stairs in Lamu Hotel. You can get more about that on page 8. Also looking at Teka loved alcohol and cocaine. Lali tells the quest. Who is Teka? Find out more about that on page 10. He said on April 22, the day before she allegedly fell, she had started drinking until about 2 p.m. She drank a cocktail. Now, this is Teka, the person in question. You can find out more about it on page 8 of the Star from Kenya. Well, that's all we have for you on the I apologize for that. That's all we have for you. The Star from Kenya. Now, the last paper of the edition, the Daily News Egypt. The front page of the Daily News Egypt reveals Egypt's Foreign Minister receives UAE Industry Minister. We have that on page 8. Also, Sovereign continues a 10% stake on ACW Power Wind farm project on the Suez. And also, that's all we have for you. All that is perfectly visible. Now, let's just take a quick look at some of the other papers we have and see if there are other interesting stories around the world. Take a look and go further and further. All right, see, this is a lot of local stories, so we're looking for some trending stories. Well, I guess this is all we have for you for the edition of the African Newspaper Review. I am about to say goodbye. That's all we have for you for the edition of the African Newspaper Review. I am Metohuey ADOGLO. You can catch me same time tomorrow. But goodbye for now.
Metohuey, like you really had to spell your name for us.
Shikina.
Anyways, let's just quickly talk briefly about a story that really caught my attention. I'm not really into sports, but there was a story that caught my attention when you talked about the Qatar, the league, the championship that's happening in Qatar, and you talked about the stadium and the amount of lives that have gone down through the building of the stadium. Could you just throw more light on that concept?
Okay, real quick here. The Qatar every 10 years to win the nomination of the World Cup, to host a World Cup, it's a 10 years progress.
Okay.
So if you're going to get the World Cup, you have to start lobbying now.
Wow.
10 years. So in 10 years, you know, okay.
But why do people lobby to host the World Cup?
Because
like, what do they stand to gain?
There's a lot of financial benefits.
Oh, really?
Tourism, the investments, and because when you host a World Cup, you have to improve a lot of social amenities in your country. Yeah. A lot of businesses will grow, and a lot of job opportunities. So when you host a World Cup, you have about 1 million tourists coming to your country.
Wow, that's
it's like
a whole lot.
A huge influx. Tourism, a lot of departments in your country, a lot of industries will benefit. The creative industry, so much industry benefits. So it's a huge deal to host the World Cup. Okay. South Africa hosted the World Cup in 2010, and they're still benefiting from the World Cup till today. Wow. Their tourism industry shut up. Their creative industry shut up. Even their sports shut up. A lot of investments came into South Africa. Brazil did the same, but it didn't work as much because of, well, they did not properly do it. The United States also did it in 1998, and they're still benefiting from it till today. So hosting a World Cup is a big deal, big benefit to the country. Now, like I said, it's a 10 years progress. And Qatar is a very small country, less than 1 million people, just about 1 million.
But it's a very rich country.
Very rich country, about 1 million people. And Qatar had competition from the United States, had competition from the US, from the United States, had competition from some other European countries, but then at the end, Qatar won the bid to host the World Cup. And this, after 2 years, it created a lot of controversies, and they said there was a lot of bribery in the past. A lot of FIFA, from the 22 FIFA officials that voted FIFA officials that voted Qatar, 11 of them have now been charged with criminal cases and of 1.5 million bribes and all that. Because Qatar is a small country. Qatar has never been in a World Cup. Qatar is not a footballing nation.
Yes.
Qatar is so many reasons why.
So many clauses, like so many factors that will just put an X factor on
why
Qatar.
And so, well, at the end of the day, it was given to Qatar. And since then, because it was for much of, they had no stadiums.
Okay.
But they said, okay, we have the money, we have the infrastructure, we can get it done. We are ready to spend 250 billion. The United States hosted the World Cup and they spent 2 billion.
Okay.
No, sorry. The United States hosted and they spent 500 million. France hosted the World Cup and they spent 2.1 billion. South Africa spent 3.5. And that money has been shooting up since, because when you don't have the infrastructure on ground, you have to spend more. The United States had the infrastructure, so they spent less. France spent less. South Africa spent more. Brazil spent more. Qatar is spending 250 billion.
Whoa, that's a whole lot of money.
So from 2 billion to 250 billion.
That's like 10 times, 20 times.
Yeah, not 20 times, like
100 times.
Basically, the more money now, and to achieve this at a rapid pace, they have had to incur cheap labor.
Okay.
And the cheap labor they get is from countries like Bangladesh, India, places that they don't have like the economic
strength is really at
weak,
a minimal level,
and
really weak.
And that they've implemented a kafala system, in which you come into the country, they take your passports, you have your work, you work, and you have
you work like a slave.
It's literally modern slavery. That's what it is, modern slavery. And so these guys, they work and they're put in such conditions that in a small flat, it can be 200 of them in that one flat. So they die of so many different kind of diseases first. They die of so much diseases. They are not free. They're not free to move around Qatar. They die on, building the stadiums.
On
they
site.
On site, they die on site. So they've been dying in so many different ways, and this has like spurned out so much documents. There've been so much documentaries that have come out to highlight the kafala system and the human rights, degradation, and how bad it is in Qatar, and how, a lot of people say the stadium they call it the Blood Money World Cup. This is what it's been called, the Blood Money World Cup, because so many people have died just for this World Cup to be accomplished. So that illustration there was just giving you a bit of, term on how or what the World Cup is about. And Qatar also does not respect no LGBTQ.
Yes.
And no drinking in
yes.
public. So there's so many reasons
restrictions why it shouldn't be
Qatar. Because the World Cup is so diverse that you need people. Fans need to be able to drink. Fans need to be able to have fun. Fans need to be able to have freedom of speech. Able to say things they want to say. Able to wear the rainbow they want, the rainbow that says LGBT, because we have a lot of LGBTQ coming to watch the World Cup. So all those rights, all those restrictions, it means why Qatar? But anyway, they call it the Blood Money World Cup. People just want to be done and over with the World Cup and say, okay, this is done and dusted. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Metohuey ADOGLO, for that sports analysis, our sports analyst. And of course, our dear viewers, this is where we conclude today's news edition, coming to you live and direct from Golfe TV Africa. Here is a recap of our top stories. Meto?
A revised helmet law has been enacted in the Republic of Benin. The law states that motorists and passengers must wear their helmet.
We also saw that the leader of the opposition and current National Executive Secretary of the FCBE party had a meeting with members on the 18th of November. And our dear viewers, this is where we conclude today's news edition, coming to you live and direct from Golfe TV Africa here in the city of Cotonou. Now, I'm Hazel OGOIGBE.
I'm Metohuey ADOGLO. Do have yourself a lovely day.